A German soldier's diary from June 1944. "We are confronted on the Western Front by fanatics of a sort," he wrote, referring to the Americans during the Normandy landings. "We've never seen anything like this on the Eastern Front against the Russians. We'll take a detailed look at what happened, who's to blame, and what the consequences were. Support the channel by subscribing, commenting, and sharing this video. This topic is too serious to ignore." At dawn, I heard their voices for the first time. They did not shout. They spoke calmly, as if they were not going to die, but simply going to work. I did not know who they were, only the crackle of radio static, the hum of air, and somewhere beyond the dunes, short, confident commands in English. Our radio operator cursed and said they were speaking on our frequency. No one believed him. We laughed, but the laughter did not last long. A minute later, the artillery began to roar above us. The sky turned deaf. The sand trembled under our boots. Far away, beyond the horizon, grey clouds of smoke rose like the ocean itself was breathing anger. We knew this day would come, but no one knew it would come like this. On the Eastern Front, we were used to chaos, to screams, to brutal frontal assaults. Here it was different. The strikes came on schedule, second by second, precise like a clock. It felt as if we were being bombed not by men but by machines. That day we saw Americans for the first time, and from the first minutes it was clear. These were not the enemies we knew. They moved as if they could see through smoke, through earth, through fear. Their attacks were not impulses, they were a system. We tried to intercept their communications, but every time we caught a signal, within seconds the frequency changed. Our operator went pale. He whispered, "They have radios in every tank, every single one." We did not believe it. But within hours we stopped laughing. I wrote in my diary, "They hear everything, they see everything. They move not as soldiers, but as thought." The Eastern Front was different. There everything was decided by instinct, by shouting, by bayonets and snow. Here, by calculation, order, silence. They advanced not as men, but as time itself. In Normandy, the clock ticked to their rhythm. At night we tried to regroup. Our officer, Lieutenant Klaus, said we would receive reinforcements by morning. But morning brought not men, but a storm. On the beach, the wreckage was burning. I saw Americans pulling their wounded out of the water right under fire. They did not abandon anyone. One of our men said, "They are fanatics." I wrote, "Fanatics of a new kind. They believe not in a leader, but in their machines. And the strength of that faith is more dangerous than any ideology." By noon, we lost contact with headquarters. Our radios worked, but the air was dead. Only the English voices cut through, clear, confident, as if someone high above dictated the battle. Later, we learned their communication network covered the entire coast. Every squad could hear every order. Their tanks spoke to their infantry, their planes to their artillery. We shouted through smoke. They whispered through the sky. When I saw their tank for the first time, I thought it was a joke. The Sherman. Small, almost toy-like compared to our Panthers. But then we understood. Strength was not in armor. Strength was in connection. Their tanks moved like fingers of one hand. One turned its turret, another already knew where to fire. One caught fire, two more changed position instantly. We fired. They vanished. We thought we won. They appeared behind us. There was no silence left, only the voices in the air, spreading across kilometers, like the will of something invisible. We felt them closing in, not with fire, with intellect. Our platoon hid among ruins near the Caen highway. We waited for a counterattack. It never came, only whistling, only shadows. Then someone said Americans were using new night vision devices. No one believed it. But at night they could see, and we could not. They struck from the darkness. We fired blindly. One soldier, Heinrich, whispered, "They know where we will be a minute from now." I wrote, "They read us like a book." The next day I found a destroyed American tank. On its armor, a burned number. Inside, a small radio set, clean and shining, a crystal panel. I had never seen anything like it. On the Eastern Front, we had seen power. Here we saw intelligence. I realized everything had changed. This was not a war of soldiers. It was a war of minds. In the following days, we retreated. Every time we thought we had found ground to stand on, they found us. Their radio was their eye, their planes struck with precision, guided by tanks transmitting coordinates. The war had become a symphony, every sound in its place. They sought no glory. They simply did what had to be done. Their calmness was more terrifying than our rage. They advanced step by step, methodically, without shouting, without slogans. One soldier said, "They are not fighting, they are executing an algorithm." I saw a captured American, young, tired, his face covered in mud. On his uniform, an antenna built into his shoulder. He smiled. I asked through an interpreter why they needed so many radios. He said, "Because we never lose each other." I wrote, "That is their secret. They are one. We are fragments." When the order to retreat came, no one argued. We knew we had lost not a battle, but an era. One night I heard them again. The air trembled with thousands of voices, coordination flowing non-stop, from the sea to the tanks, from the tanks to the infantry. All part of one network. And then I understood this was not an army. It was an organism. Our officers debated who gave them orders. No one knew. It seemed as if the machines themselves decided, and maybe they did. A week later, a shell hit our bunker. I survived. Out of 20 men, 3 lived. When they evacuated us, I held my notebook close. On the first page, I wrote, "Western Front, June. Here we met, not the enemy, here we met the future." In the hospital, nurses spoke softly, afraid of words. Everyone knew Normandy was a crack in history through which the end of the war was already seeping. We no longer believed in miracles. We believed we had been overtaken. Doctors told us the Americans built mobile hospitals right behind the lines. Each unit had its own medics, its own transport, its own supply chain, all directed by radio. No one got lost. No one waited for orders. This was not an army. It was a system with a heartbeat. I thought of the East. There the enemy came in waves. Death had a face. Here, death came without emotion, but precise like a surgeon's hand. And that was worse. When the war ended, I reread my diary. On every page, fear of a new logic of war. We used to believe strength was human. But here, man had become only a part of the machine. Now, years later, I think Normandy was the birth of a new civilization. There, on those beaches, we first saw technology replace heroism. There, the romance of war died. There, the era of reason began. The Americans advanced not because they were braver, because they could hear each other, because their tanks and their soldiers spoke the same language, because their weapons were not metal. They were extensions of their minds. That night, when we left Caen, the sky was quiet, only the distant crackle of radios. In that static, I still heard their voices. They were moving forward, and we were fading into the past. I wrote the final line: "If war ever returns, it will no longer be human."